Hello and welcome to the Immortal Index episode 8. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying, hey, this doesn't say second part of the 8 Immortals, and you're right, it doesn't, because I got an exclusive interview with Etvolare from VolareNovels, so I'm going to put off the next part of the 8 Immortals till next week because this is such a great interview and I really enjoyed talking with her, and there's some really cool, great information in there. Obviously, it's a pretty great interview to just sit back, relax, and enjoy, so you can listen or you can watch on the YouTube page. Obviously, please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up and please leave a comment. I love replying to them, I love reading them, and I like hearing your suggestions, so please do that. Also, if you listen on iTunes, go ahead and go to iTunes, search for Xianxia or search for Immortal Index, and leave me a comment and rating on iTunes so I can give you a shout out live on the show. So this was really fun. I read Sovereign of the Three Realms. I just started the Unruly Phoenix on VolareNovels, and I'm reading Song of Exile on VolareNovels. So it was really cool to get her on Skype and talk to her about all the kind of stuff like the translation. Difficulty she faces. She's one of the only translators that I know that translates both male and female MCs, so that's kind of a cool conversation topic. Also, they hit 1,000 chapters at Sovereign of the Three Realms, so they have a contest going on that just ended, so she's going to be announcing the winner of that probably in the next day or two, so maybe you'll get some tidbits information in the interview about that too. So sit back, relax, enjoy. Hello, and of course, thank you for watching the show. As I just said before I threw to this little cut, I did want to tell you guys that we have an amazing guest here on the show. You may know her as Etvo Fluff. You may know her as Etvo. You may know her as Etvolare. You also may know her as that person that you yell at when the translations don't get released on time. But they always do get released on time because you're wrong. So we have special guest, translator of Sovereign of the Three Realms, as well as the owner of VolareNovels on the line. Thank you so much for joining us today, Etvo.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me. That's a hell of an intro.
I'm glad you could take some time to join us. It's been very interesting for me scheduling these interviews, especially with like Guangzhong having, and now you both live in Taiwan, so the 14-hour plus time difference has been quite interesting.
I'm sure, and I'm really impressed that you're still awake and functioning at this hour.
Well, 11 p.m. is not too bad. If you're listening to this, we're pre-taping this on Tuesday the 29th, and we'll be releasing it, of course, on the 5th of June, because I release every Tuesday. So hopefully you've enjoyed our episodes thus far. Obviously, last week, or 2 weeks ago, if you're listening to this, I did the reading of Sovereign of the Three Realms, and before that we did Song of Exile. But we don't know what we're reading on today's episode yet, so we'll see. But I just want to start off and kind of get a little bit of history lesson for you, Etvo. How did you get into, I read your bio on Volare, and you went from banking into translation. How does that work?
Yeah, I'm probably an example of not a good Asian kid. I'm not sure how it worked either. All I know was that I worked in finance for the first couple of years of my professional life, whether in the States or in Asia. So it was like finance, banking, consulting, that sort of thing. And then one day I got struck by lightning and my soul transmigrated. No, wait, no, we're talking about my life now. I guess it was a culmination of many years and just wondering, what do I want to do with my life? What should I do? And just randomly Googling around on my lunch breaks. And one day, my random forays into randomness of the internet actually brought me to Wuxia world. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this new secret realm opening up to me? Insane. See, I love to read. Growing up, I just about went through every single book in my library. And I think by the time I graduated, I did read every single book in my high school library. I might still be the record keeper.
Wow.
And yeah, I was a huge bookworm, the epitome of a bookworm. So love reading, and I actually love wuxia as well. I grew up in Taiwan, so back when we were all kids, wuxia TV shows were really, really popular, and they still are now, but they've got more of a CG or element of fantasy in them these days. They're more Xianxia than wuxia. So back in the days, it was really about the martial arts and the jianghu and the relationships between people. So those are kind of my two hobbies. And along the way, I've always dabbled in translations as well. I've worked with a couple agencies, just doing some really rather boring translations, as is agency work. So when I found Wuxia World, it was like, oh my goodness, everything coming together, all my hobbies and side gigs, and I was just really happy. So I kind of sent an email to Ren, and I actually found it a few months ago to reread it. I was kind of embarrassed because I'm basically bouncing off the walls in my email, really chipper, really hyper. It's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is so cool. Can I join you? Do you need help? I knew nothing about the scene. Thankfully, he was nice enough to respond and be like, hey, this is probably what you should do as a new person, etc., etc. And that's how I got into dabbling into novel translations, and it just kind of ballooned from there to where I am now.
So, what made you want to start your own website as opposed to working with Ren over at Wuxia World?
Well, I didn't actually want to start my own website at first. VolareNovels actually used to be Volare Translations, and it was just going to be a repository of my own works. I actually remember thinking, people ask me about this too. They're like, hey, you're on Wuxia World now, your Sovereign of the Three Realms is getting kind of popular. Why don't you start your own site? And I actually responded, it's too much of a hassle. I don't want to deal with being responsible for a huge group of people. Nah, I'm just chill, okay, doing things on my own. Yeah. 2 years later, eating major crow. I think it was about after the 10th person who asked me or something like that. I was just sitting down one day and thinking, well, okay, Wuxia and Xianxia, they're really heavily represented in the market, but there's so many other genres out there, and there's so many other types of novels that don't really have a voice or someone advocating for them. And I was like, okay, why not? I could maybe start something and see where it goes. So I didn't really expect anything to come of it, but here we are.
I mean, I do have to be honest. I was starting to wonder. There was a point where I was wondering, because I was only reading on Wuxia World. I was starting to wonder if there actually were any Xianxia novels with female protagonists, because I hadn't seen any. And discovering your site, I was like, wow, they're covering a lot of these novels that have such different dynamics that I'm used to. Because, I mean, to be perfectly honest, on Wuxia World, there's a lot of the same kind of, story bases and story plot developments. That's not a negative. That's just kind of like a lot of the stories I read there were very similar in a lot of ways. So Volare has definitely opened my eyes to a whole grander standing of the Xuanhuan and the Xianxia novels. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, woo!
So did you grow up in a Chinese speaking household? Is that you're just born fluent?
You could say that. I grew up in Taiwan. That's definitely a Mandarin-speaking environment. My family actually spoke Taiwanese, which is a dialect based off of Mandarin. So it's kind of like Hokkien if you're in China. But I actually attended school in an English environment, so I actually count English as my mother tongue.
Interesting.
Yeah,
And
kind of convoluted.
what's been kind of the best and worst part about working as a translator full time?
The best part is definitely absolute freedom and responsibility, I think. It's freedom in the sense that you work on what you want and you make your own hours, your own schedule. And if I want to work in my pajamas, I can work in my pajamas. If I want to work in a coffee shop, I can go to a coffee shop. I can do whatever I want. And my success is really heavily tied into what I do, the story I pick, maybe the sites I'm on and what they're doing as well. But it's nice to have complete ownership over that. Whereas in an office job, much of what you do maybe depends on other people. You're always waiting for other people maybe, and you're chained to that desk 9 to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or you never leave that desk. So those, I think, are the two biggest pros. In a way, they are also the cons. Because you're so free and your life is so different from everyone else, it's really easy to get disconnected from society. Thankfully, I've worked in a corporate environment for many years, so I can still relate to my friends. But I'm always wary of anyone wanting to go full time into translating right out of college, because
Mm,
you completely have been you have no idea how everyone else operates. And it doesn't sound like a big deal at first. You're like, yeah, I can sleep in till noon every day. I can go to bed at 2, 3 a.m. on a Wednesday, whatever. But it just kind of adds up, you know.
yeah.
And you're having a social circle. Yeah, your times are completely different from everyone else, so your social circle is impacted, and then just it really adds up as you go through life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's pretty similar to working in Los Angeles and then working outside of Los Angeles doing production, because it's your entire life is within the walls of where you work, and outside of that you don't really have much time to socialize with other people. So it's like when you meet people who have a 9 to 5, you kind of have this weird disconnect where you can't really, like
Hmm.
relate to them in any kind of way.
Hmm. Yeah. And yeah, it cuts a lot of connections straight off, and you're like, okay, now what do we talk about? The weather?
Small talk is the only talk.
Yeah, yeah. And
Is
I guess to balance it out, since I mentioned two pros, and I'll mention, I guess, another con, in that one of the cons about going full time translating is that this is still very much a very new market. A lot of things are still shaping up. What is the norm today will not be the norm tomorrow, and was not the norm last year. And in fact, I can remember about 1.5 years ago, so really not that often, not that long ago, releasing daily, so 7 times a week, was fantastic, gold standard. You are awesome. You're a great translator.
mhm.
Well, fast forward a year and a half, then the reaction's like, what? You only do daily releases? Oh my gosh, this novel is so slow.
Yeah,
So yeah, things are constantly in a flux.
I think we have to thank and hate Deathblade for that, as we've noticed that with I Shall Seal the Heavens, he went from 1 a day to 2 a day to then 3 a day at the end of it, and you're like, Jesus, how do you do this? But the supply has to keep up with the demand. It's crazy.
That, and I guess just different market dynamics coming into play. So that means we're seeing a lot of different behavior from translators.
Is it easier to translate while you live in Taiwan, or is that not the reason why you live in Taiwan right now?
Oh, um, it doesn't matter where I translate, really. It's just me and my headphones and my laptop. I live in Taiwan right now primarily because of three reasons. My family is all in Taiwan, so it's nice to be close to family. I did spend close to a decade in the States, so it was a very long time to be away from them.
Hmm.
Kind of only saw them for like a week a year for 10 years.
Wow.
That was tough, yeah. Another thing is that all of our partners are mostly in Asia, whether in China or Taiwan or Hong Kong. So it's much easier to meet with them in person when I'm in Taiwan, as opposed to flying from, say, the East or West Coast. That's just brutal.
I can imagine that's
Yeah.
a 24 hours of straight travel that couldn't be fun.
And think about do that every month or so. Oh my gosh, the expense, the time, the energy, yeah. And then the last thing is I just really like living in Taiwan. Taiwan's really it's a nice place to live in. And in fact, if anyone listening is a subscriber to my Twitter or Instagram, they'll often see me share pictures of food I'm eating or coffee shops I'm in, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I have a friend. Shout out to Scott Shu, who's out there right now. He's posting all these pictures from like Michelin grade restaurants,
Hmm.
pig's feet soup, like all sorts of great meals, and it's just making me so hungry every day he's there.
And it's all really cheap too, comparatively speaking. So yeah.
What's been your favorite part of being in this community?
My favorite part of being in the community, I would say it's got to be the collaboration between people, whether it's readers and translators. So sometimes our readers will write fan fiction for our novels because they're so invested in them, and it's just really fun to read. Or they'll dig up a lot of memes, and Chinese memes too, and you're just like, oh my gosh, my comment section got flooded with 10,000 pictures of an emperor in a frog hat. It was pretty awesome. Actually, that one, I even sent it to our partners, and they're like, oh my gosh, Western readers are crazy. It was funny.
Is the meme community just as large in China and Taiwan? I actually don't know. I experience memes all the time in the US, but I didn't know if it was worldwide.
Definitely worldwide. I think it's just as prevalent, but the sense of humor is really, really different. In fact, I'm not sure if all Chinese memes would be considered memes in English. They could just be thought of as really lame jokes, and vice versa. But definitely that sort of culture is present. Absolutely. Oh, and then in terms of collaboration, it's really fun when translators are collaborating with each other as well, whether it's coming together for events. So Volare, we host trivia events every now and then, and we invite everyone in the community to participate. So it's really fun seeing people discover new novels from it, or having trivia questions interact between different novels. It's always a lot of fun.
Is that in person or is that over like Discord or something?
Oh no, it's online through the site.
Okay.
Because we have the trivia questions, and then we have all the readers vote on answers. And sometimes we'll play mind games with the answers too.
Sounds pretty fun.
Mhm.
Are there any books that you're dying to translate that you just haven't gotten to yet?
Good question. I'm actually currently translating my favorite web novel from 2017, so I probably have ticked that off my list for now. I don't have time to read that much right now. Yeah. But my other novel, Return of the Swallow, is actually probably one of my all-time favorite web novels, and it's definitely my favorite from last year. Actually, readers have made the comparison that it's similar to a Chinese Game of Thrones. I'm like, yeah, actually, kind of. I actually think it's more of a Chinese House of Cards, but it's a female MC, but it's very much focused on political intrigue and the diplomatic strategies, and we're about to dive into a section on war strategy really soon as well. So it's a lot of fun to translate.
Yeah, I read the synopsis on the site today while I was trying to figure out which one to do the reading of, and today by last week if people are watching this, and it really seemed it was reminiscent of me because I read the manga or manhwa for Kingdom, where there's the doppelganger aspect of it, but then brought back into the court fold and the political.
Mm.
So it's kind of cool because from what I understand, it's somebody who was raised in a completely different environment brought into the fold of political intrigue. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, actually, I think that's pretty accurate. And then, at first, if you do a reading of it, the first chapter is going to be like, what? Because it's very much focused on her coming back, and it's very much limited to the family's reactions. But then the worldview slowly broadens, and you realize, oh, hey, there's interesting undercurrents in her own nation, and then, oh, hey, enemy nation, and it just keeps on broadening from that.
Do you have a high interest in the political aspects of these novels? Because I noticed, like, you look at a lot of Argon's novels and compare them to, like, Sovereign of the Three Realms, and Sovereign has a lot more of that political play in it. And from what you're telling me, Return of the Swallow does too. Is that more of what you're a fan of?
Actually, good question. I think I'm just a fan of good stories and twists to stories. So I do like the face slapping of all the regular Xianxia novels as well. That's always satisfying. Come on, when is it not? But I think I really like the brainy nature of conflicts and really nice executed plots. So if I were to translate them, those are probably the type of novels I gravitate towards. But reading, hey, I'm an equal opportunity reader. I love them all.
And also, are you reading any other people's translations right now, or do you prefer to read them in traditional Chinese?
I do. Well, I usually start off by reading the translations probably, and then I can't wait, so I go read the raws and finish. Translations wise, I'm actually reading another novel on Volare. It's Transmigrator meets Reincarnator. It's just as the title sounds. It's a transmigrator who meets a reincarnator. So what's really nice is it's a clash between a lot of the tropes we see. You know, people traveling to another world, people getting reborn, and trying to figure out the interplay between that. And big bonus is that that novel has a lot of amazing food. So I try not to read it when it's too late at night, actually. But it's a really good read. And the translator, Time Bun, is an absolutely amazing translator. So I always love reading her work. Oh, actually, readers who love female MC novels are probably familiar with her previous works. They were Hidden Marriage and Evil Emperor's Wild Consort. The names might sound unfamiliar to you, but they were pretty big hits amongst the lady readers. So that's something I always look forward to. And I guess the other translation I'm reading right now would be GZ's Song of Exile. Definitely brushing up on the good old Wuxia.
Yeah, that one's being fun to read. I have to like put aside time to read it because it's just so much. I have to think about it so much more. Honestly, I have to like actually kind of reflect on a lot of the stuff that's already previously happened in the novel because a lot of it just pertains and adds up to the character. One thing that I'm curious about, because you're the first person I've talked to who has been translating a novel with a female MC. Do you find there to be a difference as you're translating and how you have to, you know, set it up, or whether write it out or translate it when you're dealing with between, you know, Xianxia as the male MC and now Return of the Swallow with the female? So is it any difference at all, or is it just straight up easy for you to just put it all out there?
I think the amount of effort is slightly similar. I might take a little bit more care when choosing the types of emotions that I'm expressing, the diction. I might think about it more and try to use more nuanced words when it comes to a female MC, because a lot of it's about all the subtle undercurrents and the knives behind a smile, and, you know, stabbing you slightly, twisting the knife but smiling at you all at the same time. So there's a lot of that going on in the female MC novels, whereas in, say, SOTR with John Chen, I spend more time on maybe when he's either fighting or he's straight up face slapping, trying to go for really powerful words to emphasize what an impact he's making at the moment.
Interesting. I like that. And then, how do you find new translators for VolareNovels? Do they come to you and you just kind of vet them out, or do you actively put out ads like, "Hey, we're seeking translators to cover these novels"?
Well, I used to scout them out, kind of like Pokemon, go into the wild grass, see which shinies come out. But now we do get a lot of applications now, so I kind of just go through the applications, or my team does, and filter people through there.
And if I designed a shirt for Sovereign of the Three Realms, what would you want it to be?
Oh my gosh, that's difficult. I am not a visual person at all. Oh, but I have run an SOTR art contest before, and I always hoped that one of the entries would just be John Chen and all of his Pokemon and all of his old man harem. That'd be pretty awesome. But that would be a lot of content to squeeze onto a shirt.
Yeah.
Darn, that dude has a lot of Pokemon and a lot of old men.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the old men harem. That's
I don't know either. I swear that's got to be a first in the translated novel field. It's not a harem of young girls, old girls, whatever. It's old men, guys.
I always think it's funny with SOTR too. Whenever he has to buy slaves, it's always like, let's take 3 chapters talking about how he's not going to mistreat the slaves, shall we?
Yeah. Let's just say SOTR. I picked SOTR when I was completely brand new to the scene, so 2.5 years ago, and I hadn't read that much in terms of, or hadn't thought about that much in terms of what I wanted to spend the next 3-4 years translating. So one of the faults of SOTR is indeed that he does spend a lot of words talking about maybe the same stuff, or he does spend a bit of time building up John Chen to be amazing, awesome, flawless, perfect. But it has been 1,000 chapters, so I think we kind of get the picture.
Yeah, I mean, if you're still reading by now, like, I don't see why you would stop. Obviously, you can tell when like paragraphs are fillers, so you can just kind of browse through because it's like, oh, it's describing this. Okay, so you're good. But even then, like reading it, I was like, you know, it's very impressive the way you've translated it, because I can't imagine that being easy to be like, God dang it, he's talking about this again. Let me just copy and paste it from the 30 other chapters where we've explained this.
Yep. Yeah. Whenever I see comments about people going, oh my gosh, this chapter is so repetitive. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you have no idea how difficult it was to translate it. And I actually cut out, I take a more active hand now in the last, starting from the last 100 chapters or so, and cutting out the really repetitive stuff. So what you get is actually not that repetitive, surprisingly.
So we just hit chapter 1016 as the public release on Wuxia World, unless I'm behind by one, but let me just click on this link. Nope, the teaser is for sending Lin Yanyu on an errand, so that's 1017. So, do you think there's going to be, when do you think first of all, have you read all the way to the end of Sovereign?
I have not.
You have not. So you're actually reading this as you go, just a little bit. Wow, okay. So what is it, is there anything like, do you think there's a huge tonal shift in the book? Like, what are your predictions for the book so far? Like, from things that aren't already spoiled for you, if I could put that out there, because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone.
Yeah. I actually did predictions, I think, when I hit, I can't remember, 700 chapters. But then one of my translators who's actually read the whole thing said, no, Edvo, you are so wrong. I'm like, darn it.
Why would you say that?
Because what I envisioned was the search for his father and his whole family background and tying it to his father in his previous life to be a really pivotal moment and pivotal part of the story. I thought it would take up quite a significant chunk of the remaining chapters. And I also thought that it would be, well, it is Sovereign of the Three Realms. We've been in one realm all along, so I feel like there should be significant emphasis on the other two coming up. I think we've been teased the second for a long time. The whole Empyrean rank, the whole being a heavenly deity, being a god, that sort of thing. That's probably the second realm. So those are my conjectures. I actually think he's not going to get a harem. I think Huang'er is it. That's his OTP. Because it's been 1,000 chapters, and he really hasn't still shown much interest in any of the other girls.
You don't even think he's going to mistress his child's mom, his baby mama? No mistress, baby mama?
I don't know. A lot of people are rooting for her, but personally speaking, she kind of really annoys me. So I'm not rooting for her as much. But I don't know. The way I think about it, my personal conjecture is that the author is going to treat Lianer, his daughter, I think that's everyone has figured that out by now, that his daughter is going to play a pivotal role in some part, in some crisis or disaster or whatever, and he's going to be thankful to Danfei, but I don't really think love's going to be there.
Interesting.
That's my personal opinion.
I thought it was such a moment in the last few chapters where it is you literally have Danfei about to like meet everybody, and then it's like, and she went into closed cultivation for 3 years. God damn it!
I know.
You're like, oh God,
I know.
Dang it! But I am excited. It's cool that we're reading alongside you with that, because obviously it's more fun when you can make conjecture at what's going to happen. Obviously, I'm sure because you can do VIP and get sponsored chapters. I don't know, how many chapters ahead are you right now in terms of privatized chapters? I'm about
25 chapters ahead.
Okay, so that's what's currently available on your sponsored chapter dealio. And then I do want to give a shout out to the fact that you're doing a Happy 1000 chapter giveaway where people can win a Nintendo Switch, let's see here, I got it right here, waterproof JBL speaker, as well as the Razer Death Adder Elite SKT T1 gaming mouse, which is pretty sick. And you're giving away one of each, correct?
Yes, one of each.
And then you'll also give 2 of the accesses to the 25 chapters ahead tier on the sponsorships, which is really cool. How have the applicants been for that? Is it
It's yeah, definitely really cool. I really wanted to make it a huge party. It's 1,000 chapters, guys. People have been reading with me for 2.5 years, so I really wanted to make a huge deal out of it. And I really took a lot of time in choosing the prizes. I asked a lot of readers for their opinions, and I finally threw in the mouse the day of the competition. I was like, well, gotta do it for my team and all the times I've bet chapters with readers based on the outcomes of certain games. So it's always been fun. But submissions wise, that we have had, I think, let me check it right now actually, but we've already gone way past 100 entries.
Wow.
So yeah, interest is high, and it's nice to get some more positive reviews on novel updates with regards to SOTR, because I don't know, for a while all of the reviews were really just kind of dumping on the novel, and I'm like, no, my heart every time I see one of those reviews. And I did tie it into ROS as well. So sadly, I've gotten quite a few novel reviews on ROS that say, yeah, well, this is a good novel, I think. I can't relate because it's a girl. 4 stars. I'm like, oh, guys. Yeah. But and a number of entries wise, whoa, we've broken 200.
Wow. Oof.
Yeah. Ha.
Man, because I only have one entry because I don't feel comfortable reviewing a novel I haven't read. So I didn't want to like put in for the extra 2 because I was like, like I don't think it's fair to like put that out there. But that's pretty exciting. And if anyone wants to find that, they can go to the front page of Wuxia World right now. It's also on my Twitter, and it's going to be in the description for this video, so everyone can apply. And how excited, this is just an off-topic question, but how excited were you to find out that Pokemon's coming to Switch? They released the trailer today.
Wait, wait, is that real news? I thought it was fake news.
Nope, it is a real game coming
It's real
to
news. Oh my gosh.
coming to Switch.
Super excited. All right, guys, I'm not giving out the Switch anymore. I'm keeping it so I can play.
There is a Pokeball controller where you can catch with it. You can transfer from Pokemon Go to your Switch, and it is a full Pokemon game that is labeled either Eevee or Pikachu that is very similar to the old Game Boy games. So,
Oh, okay, yeah. So that wasn't fake news, but isn't there no encounters of wild Pokemon
from
in
the
this
trailer, it
game?
looks like there is, honestly.
Oh, okay, weird. Well, I guess I woke up, everyone was talking about it, but then people were like, this is fake. There's no way there's no wild Pokemon, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, okay, I guess it's all fake.
No way Nintendo would do that.
So excited.
Yeah,
Obviously getting Let's Go Pikachu. Obviously.
obviously. So, is there anything you'd like to say to your fans before you head out? Because obviously you have a lot of fans if you have 200 of them vying for your hand and Switch.
Well, I always thank my fans and my readers for supporting and reading all along. I mean, seriously, I can't stress this enough. All of this entire scene and full-time translators and all of this is really possible because we have readers. So I'm always very thankful for them. And especially, I love our readers in particular because they actually take the time to educate new readers on not reading pirated novels and actually lodging protests against pirate sites and doing petitions and stuff like that to take them down. So I really, really do appreciate that. And I'm just excited to travel through more amazing stories and wonderful novels with them for many, many years to come.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, fans can follow you on Twitter at @FloFluff, but is there any YouTube channels or anything else you'd like to have people follow along with you in your journey of careership with this community?
My YouTube channel is probably pretty deserted, so we don't really need to go there. But I actually have an IG at Etvolare, and I'm on IG quite a lot because I really like IG. So if you want more food pics or Taiwan pics or random behind-the-scenes pics, definitely follow my IG.
And for the less woke people, that is Instagram.
Yeah. And actually, follow my Twitter if you want to see behind the scenes of staff chats. I recently posted one where I was semi-abusing 2 of my translators. They kind of had a meltdown online. It was kind of funny.
That sounds a little bit sadistic.
No, you should just read the screenshot.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And hopefully you'll come back again when you have any news to announce or anything like that. Crazy how my hair changes like that, right, guys? If you're watching on YouTube, you may have noticed that I did tape that interview before I shaved my head. So, yeah, it looks a little bit weird if you're viewing this as if it's live. But hey, why not? Thank you so much for watching the show. I'm going to keep it a little short this week. I'm not going to go into a reading or anything like that. I feel like it's unneeded, and next week I can really dive into the second half of the Eight Immortals. I can also dive into a reading on that, and it's going to be a really packed episode on the next week for episode 9. I can't believe we're almost 10 weeks into this show, guys. I really want to thank you again for all the support. I want to thank AfterBuzz TV, which you saw behind me a second ago. AfterBuzz TV is a network where you can watch after shows for all sorts of different TV shows, whether it's Westworld or whether it's Love and Hip Hop. Everything we cover it all at AfterBuzz TV, so please check that out. Supporting them supports this show, so I really appreciate it if you do that. Also, please support this show too by going to iTunes, rating, commenting, hitting that thumbs up button on YouTube, leaving a comment. Feel free to tweet me at Immortal Index on Twitter or at StivLemieux on Twitter, StPHENLEMIEUX. That's my personal Twitter. Let me know what you want me to talk about. I get so many great suggestions. There's only so many episodes out now, but I have so many more to do, and I'd love to promote a lot of these books and like talk about all these cool books that are out, that are updating. Tell me if some have ended recently that I don't know about, because I'd love to binge them and talk about them with you guys too. And that's the show for today. I really want to thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Please go follow Etvo at EtvoFluff on Twitter. Also, you can follow the website at VolareNovels. As always, thank you again, and we will see you all next week.